Good morning. A quick update on day 16 of the World Cup. Not too many surprises in store for us at all yesterday. So Brazil and Croatia going through, although Croatia didn't have it so easy as suspected yesterday. Now, hot topics for today were Brazil showboating during their match against South Korea last night. A few people getting very upset about this. So we'll have a very quick conversation about this. The Croatian experience and the threat that they could pose for Brazil. That will be interesting, actually, just to speculate a little bit about this. We're hearing maybe Dumfries to Chelsea, not directly World Cup related, but as a result of some good play against the USA on Saturday. Dumfries is now being linked to Chelsea and Manchester United, actually. England can make history. Well, yes, indeed, they can make history again. And we have a very quick look at the upcoming matches. So straight into it in terms of the results from yesterday. As you can see here, we have Japan versus Croatia was the first up in the afternoon. Japan put in a very good first half against Croatia, really put it up to them. And they got their just desserts at the end of the first half where the goal went in. It went to VAR for a minute where you were thought, oh no, this is going to be ruled out for being offside. But actually it wasn't offside. The replays have showed that both the striker and the defender, their arms were kind of equidistant, let's say, over the line. So the goal was adjudged to be correct and allowed. And then at the start of the second half, around the 55th minute, so about 10 minutes into the second half, Croatia scored their goal, and that was Perisic that actually got that very nice header from quite far out. He got great power into that, and he now equals the record of Šuker for the amount of goals scored for Croatia in the World Cup. Yeah, didn't see that one coming before the match. Later on in the evening, then we had Brazil versus Korea. Before I go there, of course, Japan and Croatia wasn't over there. It was a draw, went to extra time. Japan had a very good shot, actually, in extra time. It was well saved by the Croatian goalkeeper, who was just at this moment in time getting his saving gloves on. It went to a penalty shootout, and Japan proceeded to have 3 penalties saved by the Croatian goalkeeper. Now, it was a mixture of really good goalkeeping and some very poor penalty choice. But Croatia themselves also managed to miss a penalty. They hit the post, but it was of little consequence when Japan were hitting so many, well, not hitting, but missing so many penalties. So they kind of went out with a whimper in the end. It puts Croatia through into the next round. And in a second, we can speculate about how they could do against Brazil, because you can see Brazil had quite a comfortable win over Korea. It was 4-1 in the end. Brazil scored all of their 4 goals in the first half of the match, I think up to the 40th minute or something. They were scoring goals. Korea did get one back towards the end of the match. We do need to talk a little bit about the Brazilian showboating, but it was quite an easy run in the park for Brazil. We have Richarlison, who's now on 3 goals as well, so he's moving up the goal charts. And it all looks very, very good for Brazil. Of course, they had Neymar back as well, and a number of players putting in good performances. Now, Korea, no, it wasn't good from Korea. Were they tired? Yeah, potentially they could have been tired. They had quite an active group stage, let's put it that way. But in saying that, they were just thoroughly outclassed by Brazil. And, Brazil, when they get the early goal, it's very, very difficult to do anything against them. And they just kept on the pressure. And from time to time, that Korean defense opened up. So disappointing for Korea, who have been very entertaining through this entire tournament. Very disappointing for them to go out at this stage. But, realistically, that was as far as it goes. It would have been fascinating to see Korea versus Japan in the quarterfinal, but whilst Japan gave it a very good shot, you can't say the same for Korea. So they're not justified that we could in any way be speaking about Korea being in the next round. So it's all Brazil, and Brazil look very good value for a potential semi-final slot against Argentina. Can you imagine? That would be amazing, but. A lot of football has to be played before that ever occurs. So thinking about Brazil versus Croatia and how that one could go, and that match is actually lined up for Friday. actually, I believe that Brazil won't have as easy a time as they had against Korea. Okay, Croatia didn't blow us away with their dominance against Japan yesterday by any means. However, Croatia, you could call them street smart. They're certainly more street smart than Korea will have been. They won't allow Brazil to take an early lead, or at least they will try their very best not to allow Brazil to take an early lead and to allow Brazil to control the match from there. They'll try to keep it a very tight affair, I think. And think of the Belgian match. They'll try to keep it a very tight affair, and Croatia will look to hit Brazil on the counter attack. I don't know how convinced I am about the Brazilian defense. Of course, Casemiro is playing very well, and he just sits at the front of the defense there in defensive midfield. So you'll have to get past him if you're going anywhere. But it will be fascinating. Croatia don't appear to have a lot of goals in them. That's the worry. So it might conceivably end as a 0-0. I don't think Brazil are going to want that, with all the firepower that they have on offer. So it'll be fascinating. I do just about fancy Brazil to come through that one. I think Croatia probably don't have what it takes, but you'd never know. Modric could come back with another super match. He's had one or two of those already in this tournament, and that can change everything. And with the likes of Perisic as well playing well, it could all bode well for Croatia in turn. So we await the outcome of that match. So that's taking place on Friday, despite the fact that the last 16 match only took place yesterday, whereas England are playing on Saturday, despite the fact that they played a day earlier. But anyway, that's just the way they had the whole thing set up. It's not like Brazil or Croatia have a major advantage over each other. They both played on the same day. If anything, Croatia have a slight advantage, which is going to help all their own lads. But yeah, that's the way it is. Have a very quick check-in on the stats from the Croatia-Japan match. Nothing too unusual with the stats here. Possession, as you can see, was higher for Croatia, 51% versus 35%. And when we look at the attempts on goal, 16 versus 12, but notably on target was 4 versus 4. So it was quite an even match all in all. I think Croatia on the balance were slightly better team. So it's good to see that they came through the penalty shootout just purely based on that, but only slightly the better team. And then when we look at Brazil versus Korea, Pak scored for Korea late on in that match. But it was Vinicius Jr. that opened the scoring on the 7th minute. Neymar then had a penalty. We'll talk about a light penalty, but it was a penalty if you're going to go by the letter of the law. So that was on the 13th minute. Richarlison scored then on the 29th minute, and Paqueta scored on the 36th minute. So yeah, 36th minute, not even the 40th minute. That's where they had their 4 goals already. And, they had the match won, so they kind of just played game management from their possession. Even-ish, 47% versus 44% in favour of Brazil. Shots on target, this is where Brazil stand out a lot more. 18 versus 10, 9 of which were on target versus 6 on target. And yeah, that's really it. So let's talk a little bit about Brazil showboating and whether or not they were disrespectful to Korea. And there are 2 issues that come into play here. So firstly, the goal celebrations, the dancing that they were doing. They were like dancing nonstop after every single goal. And secondly, then they substituted their goalkeeper towards the end of the match to replace him with the third goalkeeper. So firstly, on the dancing, okay, it was really nice of them to, put so much effort into their goal celebrations, especially when you consider how few goals they've scored so far in this tournament. So they were obviously very confident that they were going to do a job here. So they had choreographed dances or something like that lined up, and they did this kind of a different dance for each goal that they scored. For the first and second goal, absolutely no issue with doing that as far as I'm concerned. For the third goal, yeah, you could question it, why they needed to do that. The fourth goal, yeah, absolutely. It felt like they were really rubbing it in. Maybe they should have toned that down a little bit. But that's about it. I wouldn't go any further than that with regards to the celebrations. Maybe a little bit over the top. Then the goalkeeper thing, a few people have made a very big deal out of this, mostly ex-footballers, the likes of Didi Hamann, Roy Keane. They were saying that that was the ultimate mark of disrespect to bring on the third goalkeeper, and he kind of just says, "Oh, we don't believe you can score, so we're just going to substitute our goalkeeper and everything else." But actually, when you look into the details of this a little bit more, it turns out that the third goalkeeper that they had there, I don't know if he's their second or third. I've just seen in a few news articles calling him the third goalkeeper, but that he is the only player on the entire Brazilian squad that hasn't played yet in the tournament. So they wanted to give him some game time. I don't know if it's linked to medals and everything else. Maybe Brazil are getting slightly ahead of themselves there, but that explains it. And when you think about it from that point of view, I'm absolutely fine with doing that. And it wasn't hopefully a huge mark of disrespect to South Korea. Even the Brazilian manager has come out afterwards and he has said that they didn't mean any disrespect with it. So I'm willing to believe them. I'll let them off for this time. We'll see how they react if they do beat Croatia. It's all ahead. We'll find out on Friday. Okay, next on to Dumfries to Chelsea. A lot of rumours going around that after his very good performance, and he's been linked to Chelsea and he's been linked to Manchester United to an extent for quite some time now. But a lot of speculation ongoing that Dumfries, following his very good performance against the USA on Saturday, that Chelsea now are interested in signing him and that they will attempt to pull the trigger on this deal. Manchester United also are interested in him, and they are potentially considering, of course, things are a little bit more difficult with Man United because you have the Glazers and then you have the potential buyout. Will it, won't it happen? Who's coming in? Who isn't coming in? Will they spend money in January? Won't they spend money in January? There's an awful lot up for debate there. Dumfries is the right back. We have to look at Manchester United. They already have Diego Dalot, so they do need a backup there because they're apparently going to get rid of Aaron van Bissaka. Whether or not that'll happen is another big question mark. But he is a firm favourite of Erik ten Hag as well. But I don't know if Manchester United are going to go for him. But by all accounts, Chelsea are very, very interested. Maybe that'll push Manchester United a little bit. I don't know. But it does look like he could be on the move. I think it's about 50 million they anticipate that he could be on the move for. I can't find the news story that I had with it open anymore. Yeah, 50 million. And of course, he plays for Inter Milan at the moment. The Inter Milan manager Inzaghi, I think, doesn't want to lose him. However, I think 50 million is the amount that's being quoted that would be enough to get the board at Inter interested and get him signed up. So there you go. There you go. We'll watch this space and see what happens there. And then finally, England have the opportunity to make history. So there's a lot of talk about this. Gareth Southgate in particular coming out and saying, stating very clearly that their team has the opportunity to make history, at this World Cup. And that's absolutely true. And what I said yesterday is, if England can beat France, then I see their path to the World Cup final or their path to the World Cup being substantially easier than it was. France, for me, are the best team in this World Cup. Now, whether or not France will put in a performance remains to be seen, because they do have a tendency from time to time to just not, concentrate fully on the matter at hand. Probably not as bad as the Germans have done so far. Germans are out, obviously, but you could certainly lodge that argument based on their first match in the tournament, where they were more interested in rainbow armbands and covering their mouths and everything else like that, and they took their eyes off the prize and paid the price accordingly by losing 2-1 to Japan. But and England also need to put in a good performance. Let's not forget they were very drab against the USA, and the first half actually of the Welsh match they weren't great either. A little bit of that spilled over actually into the Senegal match. It took them a bit of time to get up and running. But between France and England, they both have incredible firepower. I would counter this and say that France have a great opportunity to make history as well by becoming the first French side to get back-to-back World Cups and becoming the first side in I don't know how long to get back-to-back World Cups. But certainly, yes, the push is on now from the English media point of view and from their side, and it's going to be all talks, In a way, it's bad news for England that their match isn't on Friday, that their match is on later on Saturday, because, of course, that just increases the pressure that they're going to get from the media But you know, that's the way it goes sometimes with France and England. Well, with England in particular, I'm sure the French media are pretty tough on the French team as well. But it's all good when they're winning, so that's the good news for them. Now, quickly, just before I finish up, fixtures for today, we have Morocco versus Spain at 3 o'clock today, and then tonight we have Portugal versus Switzerland. Both of these matches, you would ideally see Spain and Portugal coming through, you know, to face each other in a mouth-watering in a mouth-watering quarterfinal that would take place on Saturday. However, Morocco have been good, convincing group winners in their group. You know, a group that featured Croatia and Belgium. So they won't be easy work for Spain. Spain, you don't know which Spain you're getting. Costa Rica Spain versus, you know, the Spain that really struggled against Japan, for example. So very hard to tell which Spain is going to turn up to this match. One thing is for certain, Spain will certainly have a lot of possession and pass the ball around a lot. Whether or not they can finish their chances is the big question. Are we anticipating a shock here? Well, there have been no shocks so far, I guess, in this last round of 16. So if a shock is coming, it's coming today. You know, well, by the whole basis of elimination, these are the final two matches. So if there is a shock, it has to be in one of these two matches. But actually, just looking at the fixture list, I think Morocco versus Spain is potentially one for a shock. But Switzerland can also make life very difficult for Portugal. We know this. Switzerland are quite a stubborn team, a defensive team. They have caused great difficulty to other big nations, in particular at the Nations League and places like that. So I do fancy that Switzerland have somewhat of a chance against Portugal. Now, you'd never know. I could be completely wrong on this one. But if we're going to get a shock, it's going to be today. I still just about fancy Portugal and Spain to come through. Portugal might need extra time against Switzerland, though. That'll be the caveat I draw in there. My God, if we go to a penalty shootout, it's going to be like the Ronaldo show. I don't know what we're going to do with that. Ronaldo will be desperate for goals as well. And actually, that's good for Switzerland because Ronaldo will more than likely squander a few chances rather than passing the ball to somebody else who would be in a better position to score. Potentially, we could see that. And we saw Neymar do that a little bit yesterday as well. So that's where we're up to. Thank you very much for joining as ever. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And you know, hit the like button as well. Keep us up to date and notified of any comments that you may have. Really appreciate the support that you give, and we'll speak to you really soon. Maybe on the back of a shock result today, maybe not. Who knows? Speak to you soon. Thanks for joining and enjoy the football.